Hello and welcome to Around the Valley. Coming to you in a bit of a postponed setting, but we're here nonetheless, and we're excited for what we got for you today. As always, I'm Arshavir, and I'm joined by Kaylie Harden and Kenny Hodges, and we have a special fall sport recap focusing on the football season. Before we dive into what we have, Kenny, Kaylie, how you guys doing?
I'm doing good. It was a long football season, a lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous. There was some good juicy drama, and there's some beefy games. So there's a lot to jump into, a lot to recap. I'm excited to hear what we're gonna be going over.
Yeah, for sure. I agree, man. Listen, it's funny when you cover this stuff as much as we do. It's a long season, but boy, it feels like it goes by in a blink. Like, to think that from the start of the season, we're already almost at Christmas. We just now wrapped up the state titles. Congratulations to any of those teams that took home that coveted hardware, the hardest trophies to get, which is to get all the way and win the states. And while we didn't have any of those in our backyard this year, but we still had plenty to talk about. It was an exciting season. It was filled with drama. It was filled with some new faces. It was filled with some old faces and new places. We had all sorts of stuff kind of happen in and around the valley. And without further ado, let's get into it. Let's put a nice, tidy ribbon and bow on what was a great 2024 season here in the valley. And we'll start with a recap of what we know it happened in the season this year. So starting with the league champions, North Hollywood took the East Valley crown. Kennedy went back to back and they took the Valley Mission, and Birmingham did what we've known them to do for many, many years now, and they claimed the West Valley. So those are your three league champions here in the San Fernando Valley: North Hollywood, Kennedy, and Birmingham. So congratulations to them on great regular seasons and getting it done and taking home league titles. Looking further into the East Valley, the major storylines that we saw come out of the East Valley this year, obviously North Hollywood took home the East Valley, but more so than that, they went 10-0 in the regular season. Scott Fair had those boys ready to play every week, and they did their thing, having an undefeated regular season. The only team in the city section that can claim as such. Also in the East Valley, we saw Fulton jump back into 11-man action from 8-man competition, and not only did they do their thing, winning a few games, they also won a playoff game in Division 3. So congratulations to those boys out there at Fulton. We look forward to seeing what you guys do in the future now that they're back in the East Valley in 11-man. Moving over to the Valley Mission, Kennedy taking home that league title. That team is one that we've seen grow and grow and grow and progress, and now they're one of the monsters in the city section. But a team that also shined in the Valley Mission this year was Sylmar. Sylmar went 5-1 in the league. The only loss was to the league champions in Kennedy, and they finished second in the league, which was their best finish in the Valley Mission. You got to go all the way back to 2016 to find a regular season like that for them in that league. So congratulations to Sylmar. We're also excited to see what you guys do in the future. And speaking of teams that have kind of had some success and now they're pointed in the right direction for the future, Panorama, the Pythons, also in the Valley Mission. While they didn't have exactly a regular season to write home about, but you did it when they needed it most. They got into the D3 playoffs and they finished their story that they have been writing for the last couple of years, where they got close to championships and couldn't quite get it done. They take home their team. They take home the school's first city championship with a win over Van Nuys, another upstart out of the Valley Mission in the D3 championship game. Last but not least, looking over at the West Valley, Birmingham had a great regular season. They took home the West Valley, as we talked about, but in shocking news and something we haven't seen in a long time, they had their win streak in the city section snap in the open division playoffs, losing to Narbonne in the city semis and the open division semifinals. Now the question, looking at them going forward, now some of these guys kind of graduating, Birmingham coming back to the pack, is the luster off the rose? Get it? But we'll see what happens going forward. Congratulations to a great regular season for them. We look forward to seeing how they reload going into 2025. Another team in the Valley, in the West Valley, that had a good season. Cleveland finished second for back-to-back years. This time under new head coach Mario Guzman. The program didn't skip a beat. We also look forward to seeing what they do next year in 2025. And last but not least, the major storyline in the West Valley, there was a champion, a city champion that emerged from that league. And it wasn't Birmingham. It was Chatsworth. Chatsworth overcame a little bit of late season turmoil with some things that have sort of kind of swirled around the program, but they galvanized. They went on a tremendous run in the postseason. They overcame a tough Southgate team in a classic championship that's going to be talked about for a long time, and they took the Division II championship in thrilling fashion. So that sort of puts a bow on Valley football this season in terms of what we know, the major headlines that came out. But there are some things that, we were out here, we were in the field, we had boots on the ground. We've got junior writers, and they'll take to them. You'll get their opinions as well of what they saw coming from this season. But I'll talk to my senior staff here. Let's start with the biggest surprise of the football season. We saw a lot of things. We saw Fulton have maybe more success than we thought they would. We saw Van Nuys having a tremendous season and make a run that almost resulted in a championship, which is a tremendous turnaround from 2 years ago. We saw Panorama look like they were sort of middling or falling into the pack. They take home a championship. Birmingham goes down for the first time in a long time in the city. So I'll ask you guys, I'll start with you, Kaylie. Looking at the season, what was the biggest surprise that came out of this 2024 campaign that you saw?
So for me, it's two things, and they're both kind of directed at how the regular season ended up ultimately impacting the postseason. Near the end, there was a lot of surprises that I didn't think that's how those stories were going to end this season. The first one, which is a little bit of a disappointment, was North Hollywood. They had such a tremendous season, so for them to not go as far as I thought or hoped that they would in the postseason, that was a little bittersweet. But nonetheless, they had an amazing season. That was an amazing surprise. I don't think anyone was necessarily in disbelief over their success, but shocking nonetheless. Obviously, they were the only team to go undefeated, so that's still a really big accomplishment. The other thing that I was surprised by, and this is a little bit more of on a lighter note, is like you said, despite some of the late season adjustments that needed to happen for Chatsworth, they were still able to pull off a city championship for D2, and that's again a tremendous accomplishment, being able to come back against adversity like that and make it happen.
I mean, the surprise at a moment, kind of shouldn't be a surprise. But it's having a 10-0 team. And it's not taking anything away from, what Coach Fair's done. It's amazing. But we haven't had, very many teams go undefeated completely in recent years. And again, like you said in the lead up tonight, as we know, North Hollywood was the only team to go 10-0 and complete an undefeated regular season. That was the pleasant surprise. Not so pleasant, honestly, is the rash of injuries. It seemed to me like this year, kids were getting banged up a little more often than in the last few years, or at least since we've launched. I mean, heck, there was one game Henry was at, they had to call the ambulance 3 times. Could be a freak moment, but there's been a lot of moments this season where kids are getting banged up a little more. So that's the not so pleasant for me.
Man, there were so many things that sort of came out of this season. And you know what? I think I have to agree with you guys across the board. I think my biggest surprise is, what we saw North Hollywood do. I don't think any of us saw, even if you expected a bounce back, to expect the team to go 10-0 or run the table when it is so difficult to stay healthy, to stay locked in with these kids. For them to never sort of waver from their identity and how they played and be so consistent throughout the regular season, it was really cool to see them kind of get that done and finish that regular season with that donut in the win in the loss column. So, again, congratulations to them. Yes, getting into the playoffs and getting into D1, it's tough sledding. Like there were any number of monsters there that were ripe for the picking. And yeah, they drew a tough matchup. They drew a couple of tough matchups when you're talking about the postseason. So it didn't quite work out in terms of them winning the championship, but they still won that league, and they did it in undefeated fashion. So that was a big surprise for me. I guess the secondary big surprise for me was just seeing how some of these teams that we thought might have a chance to sort of maybe improve, we saw leaps and bounds in some of these programs that have sort of been bottom of the barrel. We saw Verdugo bounce back from what we've seen them do the last couple of years. We saw what Ken Osorio's building in Van Nuys, and they look like a team that's going to contend. We saw, even in a team like Taft, that Nathan Swinson played so well this year, it gives you sort of hope that maybe Taft is going to be in the next Van Nuys that sort of takes a leap in the West Valley of 2025 when you have a quarterback that can play the way he has this year. So that was also a surprise, seeing some of these teams that sort of showed a marked improvement that gives you some hope for the future. And yeah, disappointment. Yeah, injuries suck. Injuries always suck because it kind of just takes away from, the potential of what you can do. It's hard to compete, or it's hard to kind of finish games when you got guys banged up. So that's always a disappointment. I agree there as well. But of course, my biggest disappointment is that football is done. And now we don't have any more football until 2025. So that's always a huge disappointment for me, because there's nothing better than being locked in on a Friday night and watching these kids compete. But from all of us at VST, we thank you guys for your hard work and everything that went into the season, and we can't wait for next year. But before we wrap that up, let's also talk about best performance. We had some kids this year that really took the ball and ran with it. We got a bunch of kids that have made first team, that have made all city accolades. Like I said, we talk about like kids like Omar Muhammad at North Hollywood and how he toted the rock all year. We've talked about what kind of rock star our boy Diego Montez is at Kennedy. We know about the uber talented kids that are at Birmingham. That's why they've been the stalwarts in the city. They've been for such a long time. So I'll start with you, Arshavir. What was the best performance of something you saw this year that really made open your eyes and like, man, this is incredible? What was the best performance you witnessed this season?
Honestly, I saw a lot of kind of battle type moments where kids were just grinding and grinding. But the one that really kind of stands out in my mind is Aiden Mejia from Verdugo Hills. Kid's a sophomore, and I had heard about his speed and I'd heard about his big playability, and it only took maybe 2 plays or something for me to see it in person when Verdugo Hills defeated Grant. And he broke multiple big ones that game. And so for me, that was kind of the one that it was like, whoa, this kid's really, really got it. And he's only a sophomore. So him and his quarterback, Jared Smith, would probably be terrorizing the East Valley for the next 2 years because they were both sophomores. That's that performance that stood out to me.
It's not necessarily a single performance, but it is a duo performance from Kevin Hawkins and Drayden Fowles, and I thought that they deserve a accolade for their dominance, considering how they were able to go from Elko to a team that has dogged them for years past and be able to show up and then run that team. I think that's a strong testament to who they are as teammates and as players, and I'm excited to see what they continue to do in the future.
I agree. Those are good picks.
Individually, of course, because I'm pretty sure Drayden's he's graduating, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, wherever that young man goes to play football next year, whoever's getting him, they getting a dog. For our own sake, we hope he stays here in the Valley. Maybe he ends up at LAVC or one of those schools like that. But yeah, you're definitely getting a great player when he steps onto your campus to play college ball on the next level. For me, it was so hard to try to narrow stuff down. So here's where I'll go. For performance, I'll pick a game that I really, really enjoyed. And early in the season, Arleta and Taft put on a game that you got to have been there to see what these two teams did. Back and forth, huge comeback by Arleta. Taft blows the lead and then almost steals the game at the end. It was a tremendous football game with fight by two teams that sort of kind of told you that those two teams were going to be teams that would be entertaining to watch all year long, and they really were. So that was a great game where two teams just kind of sort of performed. I guess you could say the same thing for Chatsworth in that championship game against Southgate, where they just kind of hung on like bulldogs and absorbed every bunch from Southgate and came right back and ended up pulling out of that game at the end. So you can nominate them as well. But I think if I'm going to pick one single performance that just floored me, was Ivan Mendez in that in that D3 championship against Van Nuys. It's rare that you can look at a game and say like one guy sort of kind of carried an entire team to victory, but literally Ivan Mendez, and boy, that guy, you got to see him in person to see how large this human being is. And that guy was carrying defenders on his back into the end zone. It was a performance for the ages. And, congratulations to Panorama, but also congratulations to that young man, because his name will be talked about in terms of Panorama winning that first championship. Number 6's name is going to be all over that game in terms of how he performed. So I'll give him the best single performance that I witnessed all season. So, I got one more question. We'll make predictions for next season. Before we'll save that question for when we wrap up and put a bow on everything. But before we go any further, we want to give out our VST awards for Coach and Players of the Year. We had a lot of, for all coaches and players involved, there's so much that goes into a football season. We want to make sure we extend our congratulations to every kid who strapped it up, every coach that volunteered their time, but for us as a staff, we want to award who we thought gave the best performances as coaches and as players. And these are awards that we vote for as a staff, because we're out in the field and we watch these games, from our photographers to our junior writers to our senior staff. We spend a lot of time pouring over these teams and these games. So we wanted to just give out some accolades at the end of a great season. So let's start. Before we go to Coach of the Year, let's talk about Players of the Year. We decided we're giving out a Player of the Year award for each league here in the Valley. There were many kids who really put on great performances and play well all season. Let's start in the East Valley. We had several kids who were nominated that we thought were worthy of accolades for how they played, with Omar Muhammad and Jagger Belson from North Hollywood, Jared Smith and Aiden Mejia out in Verdugo Hills, Carson Rinka and Matthew Gonzalez and how they played at Grant, Austin Ramos and Jose Rosas, Armando Juarez and Antonio Maya out in Poly, Aaron Calica and Emmanuel Martinez at Fulton, and Charles Cubias and Noah Alvarado at Chavez. These are just some of the names of the kids who really, really stood out this year and balled out. But for us, after voting for the award, we have a winner. And our winner for East Valley Player of the Year goes to Omar Muhammad at North Hollywood. He had an outstanding season, rushed for well over 2,000 yards. He was really a catalyst for a team that really punched people in the mouth and just physically dominated opponents all year long. So congratulations to Omar Muhammad for a great season. Well done. You guys got any thoughts?
This is something that has kind of been brewing for Omar. And he was kind of playing understudy last year, and he burst out this year and was like, this is mine. And he led that team. not much more you can say than this kid was a beast and refused to go down. And he ran over people and ran past people, so it was well deserved.
Absolutely, it was well deserved for Omar. Him and his teammate Jacob Belson also had a great season, but they were really catalysts in what we saw North Hollywood do. So congratulations to Omar Muhammad, and congratulations and good luck on your future endeavors, as he's going to be a graduating senior. But what an indelible mark to leave on the program. When we were wondering what their run game would look like with Jalen Burt moving on and going to St. Genevieve, he stepped up big for that team and carried them to an undefeated regular season. So congratulations to Omar Muhammad. So let's move on to the Valley Mission. Listen, there were a lot of names. There were a lot of star performers in the Valley Mission this year. Obviously, Kennedy is a team that is full of talent. You had guys like Diego Montes, the quarterback who spearheads the whole thing, Gio Nelson, Amari Rhodes, the standout wide receiver who seemed like he was always running up and down the field, and Josue Sandoval also in that backfield. But you also can't forget about Jacob Nadal and Chris Ojeda at Silmar. They did a lot of the heavy lifting for a team that had an incredible regular season. Carlos Herrera and Marlon Figueroa were two guys who were kind of at the heads of the snake for what we saw Van Nuys do offensively. One of the more fun offenses in the city section to watch with that air raid. Aaron Sellis and Isaiah Castro at San Fernando. While it wasn't necessarily the season they wanted, but boy, those guys provided some real fun moments. Like I said, Ivan Mendez, a stalwart for Panorama. We saw what he did in the championship game. And then let's not forget about a couple of guys on some of the teams who didn't have the best seasons. When you're talking about Darion Turner Jr. at wide receiver at Canoga Park, he's a name that's going to probably be on the tip of a lot of people's tongues in the next 2 years going forward in the Valley Mission. He did everything he could as an underclassman to kind of help propel Canoga Park forward, and you saw flashes of brilliance from him this year. And also Hector Monroy, a guy that we talked about quite a bit on this podcast, as a guy that when called upon did a little bit of everything for a Reseda team that have needed every bit of whatever he had this year, this season. So with all those names being said, the winner of the Valley Mission Player of the Year from Valley Sports Telegram is Diego Montes at Kennedy. Amari Rhodes, his teammate, was a runner-up. Garnered a lot of votes from the staff, but Diego Montes takes home the award. I know we've talked a lot about Diego Montes this year. He is an awesome player and still has some stuff to do because he's just a junior. He's still going to be back next year. But Kaylie, what do you think about Diego Montes and what the type of season he had this year?
I think it should come to no surprise that he's getting this award or this recognition. I also don't think it should be any surprise to people that he was going to ball out like he did this season. We've seen this coming down the pipe for the last few years, and I mean he's been just really building himself and his team as well. So congratulations to Diego Montes, well deserved.
Absolutely, Arshavir. You got anything you want to add there?
I mean, we basically said it all season, and just kind of put a bow on it. So, congratulations, Diego Montes. He was a man on a mission, on a team on a mission. Only thing left for him to do is something I'll talk about later.
Absolutely. So, yeah, no more to add there. Again, congratulations to Diego Montes taking home the Valley Mission Player of the Year from us here at the Valley Sports Telegram. We look forward to seeing what you do in your senior season. And last but not least, let's look at the West Valley. Again, a league that's just chock full of talent. One of the most competitive leagues, one of the more talented leagues in all the city section always. And look at some of the names like a Drayden Fowles at Birmingham, as we kind of talked about already. Antrell Harris, his teammate, the wide receiver, also had a great season. Eddie Plaza, their do-it-all Swiss Army knife player on both sides of the ball. He had a great year. Over at Cleveland, you look at Dominic Fuentes and Isaac Delgado as two guys who really, really kind of held down the fort for Cleveland all season long. Nasir Inalobo at Granada Hills, and Jonathan Hernandez, their young signal caller, giving you hope for the future of what that Granada Hills is going to be able to bounce back to their former glory. You also look at Arturo Acevedo and Jaden Williams, the sort of second half that those guys had, and really sort of helping El Camino bounce back in the second half of the year. Angelo Romo and Devin Del Toro, two guys who were kind of awesome players for Chatsworth all year and really played a big part in them taking home the D2 championship. And then you look at Legend Wilson at Taft and his quarterback, Nathan Swenson, the junior. He'll be back for his senior year. And there's a lot to be excited about that young man as well for Taft. Let's look at the votes and the winner. And he's now our unanimous winner for Player of the Year out of the West Valley. And that is Drayden Fowles, senior running back at Birmingham, a guy who did a little bit of everything this year, dynamic, big plays, instant big plays for that team. Congratulations to him taking this award from us here at Valley Sports Telegram.
It was everything we kind of talked about in the preseason when we previewed what kind of look for who might be a game changer on that program. Especially considering the amount of people that had graduated out the year before, and he did what was asked of him. He stepped up and had a really, really amazing season. That's all.
Absolutely. And what you got, Kaylie? What you got? Any parting words for Drayden Fowles as we crown him our West Valley Player of the Year?
I mean, as if I haven't given enough praise so far tonight. No, great job. Obviously, the votes were counted, and it's not like we're all in disagreement here. I think this was another one of those awards that's easy to give because it's so obvious.
Absolutely. So congratulations to Drayden Fowles, and also congratulations to Nathan Swenson. He got a lot of votes and actually finished runner-up in this category, which kind of just tells you, for us at VST, we watched all these games and we see not just the talent that's at the top of the league, but we also recognize some of these kids that we expect to be ballers next year as well, and having really good seasons in their junior year, being underclassmen. So, congratulations to all the players across the Valley. It was so much good football. We had so many teams in the postseason. We had so much postseason success. Still taking, even though we all stood on business in our predictions and we thought we were going to take all the championships. But you know what? 2 out of 5 with the amount of teams that are in the city section that you got to compete with that aren't in the Valley, that still ain't bad. So congratulations to our champions. Congratulations to our league winners. Congratulations to our award winners on a season well done. And we can't wait to see what you guys do in 2025. Our last award before we go to wrap up the fall season, Coach of the Year. Now, this was a hotly contested award amongst our staff. We had so many good nominees. Jim Rose, obviously, at Birmingham, and what they do and what they've established there. Mario Guzman, his first year at the helm at Cleveland, that team didn't skip much of a beat. We talked about Scott Fair at North Hollywood. You also got to throw in there what Bill Cohn did at Arleta with them continuing to be one of the better teams in the city section. Sean Jackson with the bounce back year of Verdugo Hills. Troy Cassidy and what that Kennedy team has done with back-to-back league titles. And they only look like they're going to get better from here. Evander Williams did a great job at Sylmar. Ken Osorio, as we talked about a little bit about what this Van Nuys program has done, and Adrian Beltran taking home that city championship at Panorama. So we have plenty of great guys to choose from. You can't go wrong with any of these guys. But for us at VST, the coach who garnered the most votes and took home the Valley Coach of the Year is Scott Fair at North Hollywood. Congratulations to Coach Fair. It's a well-deserved award for what that team accomplished this year, going from a team that sort of struggled at the end of 2023 to bounce back the way they did and dominate competition all year. It was a tremendous coaching job by him, tremendous effort by his staff and those players. So this is a Coach of the Year award for him, but it's really a testament to what we saw from that program this year. Scott Fair wins Coach of the Year, and Ken Osorio was a close runner-up at Van Nuys. I'll give you guys the floor for closing thoughts on what Scott Fair did this year. We'll start with you, Arshavir. What do you got?
I mean, to want to call, when we called the 10-0, almost nothing short of amazing. And outside of their league games, it's not like they had scheduled, cupcakes. And this is a team that beat El Camino early in the season. And yes, El Camino was still trying to figure out who they were in that early part of that season. But a win over El Camino is still a quality win. And they racked up quality win after quality win. And hell of a season. And goes to the general who prepares you for battle. And Fair had these kids ready to roll from Monday through Friday night, and very well deserved. And also, shout out to Ken Osorio for coming in very, very close second. It was a nice little heated competition on our end.
Absolutely. And Kaylie, I'll give you the last word here. Someone who coaches yourself, what does it say about a coach in the program of Scott Fair for him to have a team go undefeated in the regular season that way?
Yeah, I mean, props to Coach Fair for being able to keep the fire lit underneath that team all season. It's very hard, like we mentioned earlier, to keep the attention and the focus of these kids all season, especially with injuries and, different challenges that might come with the different opponents that they face week to week. So, mad props to Coach Fair for being able to keep these kids focused and on track and winning all season long.
Absolutely. So, once again, congratulations all our winners. Congratulations to everybody and everything that we accomplished in 2024. And before we wrap up the fall, the last question is looking ahead to 2025. Whenever we do these, we always do a look ahead. So for us, we're going to do a look ahead to 2025 and give a little bit of way too early predictions about what we think we could see in 2025. So I'll start with you, Arshavir. Looking ahead to 2025 with everything that we've sort of seen laid across the landscape, what do you think is going to happen next season? Whether it be a team that takes a leap or a player who sort of takes a leap and really sort of cements himself as the guy in the Valley. What do you think is going to happen this year in a way too early prediction for 2025? I
think we see another year of Valley Mission domination kind of throughout as it goes. A lot of underclassmen this year, a lot. And they all did something really special. And all of that, the Valley Mission domination, I'm going to say here, 11 months out, leads to a Kennedy City title.
That's interesting. All right, Kaylie, what you got? Give me a way too early prediction of something you think is going to happen in the football season in 2025. What you got?
Well, without trying to make too much of an assumption on who it'll be or what teams it'll be, is I'm really excited to see what players Birmingham decides to poach for next season in order to get themselves back up to the number one spot that they were in previous years. So we'll see if we have any interesting transfers going into next season. I think what would be more interesting, though, is to see if any players leave Birmingham and go to our other Valley schools, especially another team in the West Valley, maybe.
Hey, man, listen, that's always a possibility. Listen, man, it's hard to sort of stay at the top. And I thought that Birmingham sort of kind of had to learn that firsthand this year. But, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, there could be some players going. But listen, when you're graduating, when Jim Rose graduates, the sort of caliber of talent that they graduate, you can almost surely expect that there are going to be some new names and some guys, some impact guys that you may not see coming that are going to land there and probably have an impact straight away. I don't think a lot of us saw that Kevin Hawkins was going to end up there after the season he had at Elko the year before. So you just never know. You never know what Birmingham's got up their sleeve. I do agree with that. My prediction for next season, I know people will look at Kennedy and they will see Amari Rhodes is graduating. They'll see some of these guys that are graduating. But you know what? The head of that snake is still going to be there. Diego Montez is going to be back for his senior year. And if Diego Montez is under center, with how the season ended and what he feels is left unfulfilled, there's still going to be a lot of talent around him. And that team is going to be back, and they're going to look to get it back in blood next year. They're going to look for the three-peat. So my way too early prediction is Troy Cassidy and Diego Montez will three-peat in the Valley Mission. And not only will they three-peat in the Valley Mission, they're going to get it done, and they're going to take a city title. And let me tell you something. I might even go this far. Depending on who ends up in that program or depending on what guys step up, don't be surprised if this team isn't flirting with Open next year. I'm just saying. If they end up in that Open division with that quarterback, with that coach, just know you heard it here first, way too early at the end of 2024.
All right. Hey there, Henry Barrial. Biggest surprise of the year for me in football was the level of coaching in the Valley. You know, Evander Williams over at Sylmar, Rodrigo Nunez at Chavez, Ken Osorio at Van Nuys, all very different coaches, all with their own very particular style. You know, I also, coaches like Jason Sobolik. Gosh, if I was a young quarterback in the Valley, I'd want to go to El Camino and, throw 30 passes a game and really light it up. So there's just all kinds of surprises that but the main one for me was the coaching and the level of coaching here in the Valley. Biggest disappointment, I'd have to say, I have two of them. One is Reseda not figuring it out, not being able to get over early season injuries and kind of work out a methodology to win. Again, some high school teams are very thin, right? So injuries can be super devastating, and I think Reseda had that issue this year. And then finally, Scott Fair at North Hollywood not finishing the perfect season. I know how tough that is. It would have been special to do it, to just run the table and not have any losses, but they still had a great season. But I was hoping that they would be able to have a perfect season. I'm from Miami, so the Dolphins, 1972. You're always looking for teams like that. Anyway, that's my thing. Best performance, I think, was Noah Muhammad quietly killing Grant. I say quietly killing them because he isn't a flashy dude. He takes the rock, he runs it up the middle, and you don't think he's piling on a ton of yardage, and you look up and he's got 250 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then my way too early prediction is Nathan Swinson over at Taft is going to dominate the West Valley with his play next year. So I'm really looking forward to that, and that's my way too early prediction there. And that's it for me, guys. Have a great rest of your show.
So, on that note, man, it has been a great season. We've had so much fun kind of bringing and recapping everything that is going on. Again, congratulations on all the coaches, all the players, all the admin, everybody who goes into having a successful fall campaign. There's a lot that goes into playing football, a lot of traveling, a lot of taping up, a lot of fighting through things. And we're just excited that we were able to bring all of this to you guys. So for our junior staff who gave their opinions on this episode, for our senior staff and our editor-in-chief, Arshavir Sarian, and Kaylie Harden, our social media extraordinaire, and your boy Kenny Hodges, I do a little something around here. For all of us here at VST, we appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe. Leave comments on what you thought was the most exciting thing from the season, and we're going to read it all. And stay tuned. Just because the football season ends don't mean it stops for us, baby. We're going to be right back. We rolling right in the winter. We're going to bring you soccer covers. We're going to bring you basketball covers. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about Elijah Arenas. I know that's what people want to talk about on the boys' side, but we got some good stuff to talk about on the girls' side in the sports too. We're going to bring it all to you. And make sure you go to Valley Sports Telegram. We still pumping out articles. We still pumping out covers. We still giving y'all everything y'all want. So just because the fall ends, the winter is already underway, baby. We right here for you. So again, for us at VST, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.